Hi everybody, coming at you with my blonde furry friend here, back in the woods. No, it's just in my backyard. So let's start where we left off. I believe we are on chapter 25 of The Collector. Here we go. Chapter 25. Grandma Jeannie didn't join us at dinner when Vanessa came over Saturday night. I felt bad she wasn't doing well, but I was also sort of relieved, which made me feel even worse. It meant I didn't have to worry about her saying anything strange to Vanessa or demanding to search her bag for a doll before she came into the house. Mom made homemade pizzas. She made the dough from scratch and everything and let us put whatever toppings we wanted on our halves. I just put extra cheese on mine. Vanessa loaded hers with veggies, and Anna made a big smiley face out of the pepperonis on hers. We listened to music in the kitchen while the pizzas cooked, and Mom asked Vanessa about her experiences living here. Vanessa answered everything smoothly, like she was talking to a friend and not an adult. She even shared things that I hadn't gotten to ask her yet, like what her parents did, lawyers, and why she was allowed to take care of her aunt all by herself. Her parents were too busy. Eventually, though, Vanessa turned the conversation around like she always did and started asking Mom her own questions. "What was it like when you lived here?" Vanessa asked. Mom laughed and ate a piece of raw green pepper. Even though I love vegetables, I thought it was still a little gross. "Almost the same as it is now," she replied. "I think Hank at the general store hasn't aged a day." "I think that's because he's always been older than dirt," Vanessa replied. I raised an eyebrow. I thought that was a phrase only adults used. Mom just laughed again. It was cut short when Anna asked a very strange question. "Were any kids taken when you were a little girl, Mama?" We all went silent. The only sound of the kitchen was the radio, and even that seemed quiet. "Why would you ask that, honey?" Mom said. I couldn't tell if she was shocked or angry about Anna's question. She didn't seem to want to answer either way. "My friend Claire mentioned it at school today. She says she heard that there were a lot of disappearances here a long time ago." I watched Mom intently. She bit her lip, then quickly turned to check the pizza. She didn't answer. "Mom?" Anna asked. "Yes, honey?" Mom sounded exasperated. Can you hear that hawk in the background? "Hey, buddy." Where was I? Oh. Anna repeated her question. Mom paused. Then finally, she admitted the truth. "Yes," she said. Yes, she said. My stomach turned to ice. How many?" I wanted to push her for asking questions with Vanessa in the room. This was the sort of thing to talk about in private. Thankfully, Mom felt the same way. She looked at Vanessa with concern. She probably didn't want Vanessa telling her aunt that we were discussing missing kids at dinner. That wasn't the sort of thing people talked about around guests. A few," Mom replied. "Is that why Grandma sent you to a private school?" Anna asked. "She didn't want you to get taken?" "Anna!" I blurted out. Even though I wanted to find out the answer, I didn't want to have this conversation in front of Vanessa. She must really think my family was crazy. Just wait until she met Grandma Jeannie. "What?" Anna asked innocently. "I just want to know." "It's okay," Mom said. She sighed and looked at Vanessa. "But I think this is something we should talk about later." Finally, someone was seeing some sense. "Don't mind me," Vanessa said. "I'm curious too." Despite her casual tone, something in her expression... Oh my goodness, do you hear all that rustling? Come here. Chloe's got a stick. Put the stick... Oh. Go get it over there. Goodness gracious. Okay. Now where was I? Despite her casual tone, something in her expression made me think she actually was bothered by what we were talking about. I couldn't blame her. To know that Karen wasn't the first kid to go missing was one thing. To learn that there had been others, maybe many others, was much scarier, even if it was years ago. No, I said, let's talk about something else. We'll leave the ghost stories till later. Ghost stories? You mean the kids died? Anna asked. Anna, I yelled again, cut it out. Anna pouted. Sometimes she asked way too many questions. It didn't help that I wanted to know the answers. I knew, though, that Mom would never tell us that. She would think we were too young to deal with something horrible like that. Mom tried to keep the conversation light, but Anna kept finding ways to ask about missing children. Finally, Mom got flustered and asked her why Anna wanted to know so badly. Anna said it was because of her new friend, Clara. Mom said maybe Clara wasn't as good a friend as Anna thought, and she wanted to have a talk with Clara's parents. Anna said Clara didn't have parents. I wondered aloud if Anna was just making Clara up since I still hadn't met her. That just made Anna leave the table angrily. Mom told me I'd been rude, but I could also tell she was relieved that Anna had stopped asking questions. Vanessa tried to steer the conversation toward some of the locals again, but I stopped listening. All I could hear was Anna stomping around in a room above us. The good part of this was that when dinner was over, Vanessa and I could go back to my room without me having to figure out how to get rid of Anna. When Mom asked what we were going to do, I said we'd be playing board games. We even took out an old game of chutes and ladders that Grandma had around. In truth, though, we were mostly just pushing the pieces around and talking. It was hard for me to concentrate on anything after that dinner. So the doll worked? Vanessa asked me out of the blue. Well, what do you mean? I mean, Vanessa said, your sister hasn't come in here since then, right? Nope, I said, she hasn't had nightmares again. Have you? I'd hoped she wasn't going to ask. I was so bad at lying. Yes, I admitted. Really? What about? She crossed her legs and looked at me intently. I almost expected her to pull out a notebook so she could write it all down like she was my counselor. I hadn't seen a counselor since the weeks following Mom and Dad's divorce 2 years ago. I looked at the game board and considered not answering, but Vanessa was the only girl here who talked to me. I couldn't cut her out like that. The woods, I muttered. I moved my game piece. I almost expected Vanessa to laugh. Instead, she said, under her breath. Maybe she was thinking about her next move, but when I looked up, she was still staring at me like she was trying to figure me out. I guess that makes sense, she said. The woods are a scary place, even if your grandma is telling you ghost stories about them. I shrugged. I wanted her to move so we could talk about something else. What else was there to talk about, though? It wasn't like either of us had any gossip. Suddenly, my big empty room seemed even bigger and emptier than before. So, what happens in your dreams? Vanessa asked. I kept expecting her to make fun of me, even though she had never, ever done so. Even my best friends in Chicago would have joked about me having nightmares and how that was for little kids. I was old enough not to be afraid of the dark or believe the boogeyman was real, but Vanessa was still looking at me seriously as though nothing I could say would surprise her or make her laugh. It was weird. It reminded me how my counselor had looked at me and all the other adults when they would ask if I was okay in the wake of the divorce. Well, I said, she still hadn't moved her game piece, so I had no choice but to talk and wait. I am always running from somewhere, a monster. And then, yeah? It's stupid. I'm sure it's not. Really? She leaned back and bit her lip, like she was thinking. I always find your house, I told her. That's kind of creepy, Vanessa said. Yeah, I looked away. There's no way I'd tell her what happened when I got to her dream house. She didn't need to know about the doll that looked like her, and she definitely didn't need to know that I'd seen her house in my dream before I'd ever visited. She laughed. Not like she was making fun of me, but like she was trying to make the situation less scary. Well, I can understand why you wouldn't want to come over to my house again, but, she said, moving her game piece closer to the finish line, you have to admit my aunt bakes some pretty good cookies. Maybe someday I'll get to meet her. I rolled the dice and moved forward, but not far. Then she rolled the dice and got to the finish line. Maybe, she said. She looked at me, then back to the game she'd just easily won. I'm really glad I met you, Josie. Me too, I replied. School would be horrible without you. She smiled sadly. It's more than that. It's been really lonely here. I'm glad I finally made a friend. It wasn't the first time she said that, but it still made me feel good inside. Clearly, I hadn't scared her off with my strange family. It's sad though, she said, almost to herself. What is? I asked. I want you to stay here so we can keep being friends. But I know you don't want to be in this town. I guess I can't blame you. Maybe one day we can run away together, I said, but I was joking. Good, because kids, you should not run away ever. When she looked at me, though, she was serious. I can't get out of here, she said. Her words were choked. She shook her head and looked back to the game, even though it was over. I just mean, until my aunt is better, I can't leave her side. I still think it stinks that your parents aren't taking care of her. She nodded to herself. It does. Sometimes I feel really lonely. She sounded like she was on the verge of crying. I reached out and put my hand on her arm. Her skin was always so cold. It's weird. Me too, but maybe now we don't have to feel that way. You've got a friend now, I tried to laugh. Besides, it sounds like I'll be here for a while. Yeah, she said, her voice still sad. I think you'll be here a long time too. And that's the end of chapter 25. Why is her skin cold? That's weird. I mean, I'm chilly in the classroom a lot because the air conditioner's too cold, but my skin's not cold. Oh boy. Come here, Chloe. Come here. Tell everybody bye-bye. See you guys next time.